We are a couple weeks out from two really surprising TV cancellations. We lost both Netflix's Iron Fist and Luke Cage, and everyone seems to be asking the same question. Is Disney's streaming service, which we know is on the horizon, to blame for this? Laura, we are sitting here to break down this whole sort of scenario, and to answer the question, what do you think? Is Disney's streaming service to blame?
Yes, but not for the reasons people think. I feel like a lot of people have made this about Disney wanting to yank anything Disney related off of Netflix, but it's not their call. When a network greenlights a show, buys it from a studio, they kind of have right of first refusal. They can run it for as long as they want to.
And so even though we sort of answered the question up front, we think there's a lot more drama going on behind the scenes in this whole deal than at first meets the eye. It's not as simple as you said, Disney just deciding, hey, we have this new streaming service, we want these shows maybe to end up on there, which we don't think is likely at all. Definitely not, because that's going to be a family-friendly service. But we think sort of to explain all this, we need to go back to the original deal that was made circa 2013 when we found out, surprise, an unprecedented deal at that point in time. Netflix and Marvel had decided to make 4 individual shows that would culminate in one Defenders.
But then it turned out that the Defenders wasn't that great.
The Defenders reportedly was the lowest viewed of all the series at that point in time. So that included multiple seasons of Daredevil and then each of the individual seasons of Jessica Jones.
Like lower than Iron Fist season 1, would you think? But they were.
Though maybe that's the cause of it as well. That Iron Fist had come out 5 months before the Defenders. People really didn't care for that, and then we saw Defenders. It's worth noting that Netflix never releases viewership numbers for anything unless they're like, oh my God, this is the best show for us, but even then we don't have numbers and really perspective.
This did really well, trust us.
Exactly, and that's because their model is a bit different than a broadcast model. They aren't looking at like a first day or live +3 ratings. They're looking
they
at
don't care about what advertisers are looking at because they don't have advertisers. So it's more about kind of social media buzz. It's about whether things win Emmys. It's about obviously the internal viewership that they know that we don't. So there are a lot of factors that go into whether something should be cancelled or renewed.
And that's the thing. You actually were at the Television Critics Association press tour earlier this year, and Cindy Holland, the VP of original programming at Netflix, broke down basically how they go about deciding to cancel things. What Cindy said is that it's viewership versus cost going into these, and these Marvel shows are pretty costly to make. Not only the deal behind it,
but
also
millions in episodes, certainly.
Yeah, and they shoot in New York, which is
a very costly city.
Exactly. It's not like they're shooting in Vancouver or something like that, which is much cheaper. And so when you look at sort of the diminishing interest, which again, we can't cite any Netflix numbers, but if we look at Google search trends, which is like a funny thing to look at, but it's pretty forward facing, you can see over time, especially with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist, the most recent seasons, there have been significant diminishing interest. But we still don't think that that alone would be enough to prompt Netflix to cancel these shows. It's interesting to note specifically that Ted Sarandos, the head of Netflix, did say in July it is Netflix's call whether or not to cancel these shows, and specifically that they would be happy to keep these shows on their service. And the big thing that's changed in between then and now is
in August. It seems like Disney wants to get into the streaming game themselves. They want to start creating content direct to consumers just like Netflix is. So many different networks and studios are wanting to do this now. We're seeing with Warner Brothers is going to release their own, I think, for movies and TV. CBS All Access is doing it. Hulu is owned by various studios, so they're already kind of funneling their programming direct to consumer. So everyone wants to do what Netflix is doing, and that means they want to create their own shows.
Rival content,
bigger and better potentially. So is it really in Netflix's best interest to promote Disney branded characters? Perhaps not.
And we've heard, this is still reported, it's not confirmed by Disney, but we've heard that there are actually 2 new Marvel series that Disney streaming service is going to be making, or actually one that's going to be focused on Falcon and Winter Soldier, which unlike these Marvel Netflix shows that were always supposed to be in the MCU but never directly connected, these would be starring Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. They would be directly connected in a way that these
all
aren't.
under Kevin Feige's auspices, which none of the other MCU TV shows have been up to this point. So obviously they want a kind of more cohesive whole with like the MCU, big screen and small screen, which makes sense.
But we think at the end of the day, sort of what a really interesting point comes from, and I have the quote here, is from Bob Iger, and he was speaking to why Disney is getting into the streaming service game, but we think is relevant to why Netflix is sort of making these decisions. And Bob Iger said, the media landscape is increasingly defined by direct relationships between content creators and consumers.
Right. Yeah.
So that could be the new model going forward.
Yeah.
So that's sort of our take on this. We're curious what you think. Are you bummed to see these shows leaving Netflix going forward in terms of cancellations? Would you like to see more of the Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Punisher storylines, even if they won't necessarily intersect with these other characters? Let us know in the comments. We do have plenty more Netflix and Disney coverage coming your way. Make sure to check out every show that is canceled or ending in 2018. It's a pretty long list, and some of these shows are included on it. And also check out what's new to Netflix in November 2018. For all things Disney, Marvel, Netflix, and beyond, be sure to keep it here to IGN wherever you like to watch.